The Catholic Morning Show on Iowa Catholic Radio.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Sam Halligan, our host this morning for the Catholic Morning Show. Super excited to be here this morning. We are going to have Greg Schutte, an incredible man who is the director of Marriage Works in Ohio and is coming out with a marriage enrichment video series called Building a Eucharistic Marriage. So we're going to get into that here shortly, but first want to get to know Greg. Greg, how are we doing this morning?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg, now, unbeknownst to you, I actually think I know you by proxy. So do you have a son and a daughter named Joshua and Molly?
I do.
Wonderful.
I do.
Okay. So I actually lived in Ohio working at Damascus for about the last 10 years. And Molly was one of the first missionaries that served alongside me that first summer in 2015, I believe, 2016. And then Joshua a couple summers later. But what a cool connection.
That is. And both of them are married. And Molly she just gave birth to our second grandchild. So, yeah.
Amazing. What a blessed life. Greg, I'm super excited to have you on the show, especially, a lot of my work revolves around the family, revolves around the mission of the family and being able to help families flourish, especially married couples and their children. And so I think as we kind of kick it off, could you first walk us through what Marriage Works actually does and how do you serve both husbands and wives and also the youth side of things?
Sure. Marriage Works is a part of the Elizabeth New Life Center, which is a pro-life pregnancy center that's been around for over 36 years. And I've been working with Marriage Works, which is a department of, for about 20 years. And it came through a grant that we got back in 2006. And since then, we've really built it up in many different ways. So we first have a part of it that's a youth education component that goes into high schools and middle schools, teaching kids about healthy relationships and saving sex for marriage and really thinking through their choices. Then the marriage part of this is where we work with couples through therapy. So I'm a licensed marriage therapist. And also we have classes that we run. And like you said, the Eucharistic Marriage course is one that we run. And then we also have programs that we sell nationally to help couples at any stage. So we have the program can work for people who are engaged or are married and working on their marriage. So
yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I mean, I think what an important piece to be able to truly, I mean, I loved when I saw this of both, highlighting the importance of the married couple themselves, the husband and the wife, but then additionally helping children, right? And I think what a cool experience to be able to go into schools or parishes and to be able to work with young people. Because I think, one of the common misconceptions with, young people and specifically healthy sexuality and the flourishing of the human person. And, oftentimes a lot of us just grew up with kind of just the talk, right? But to see and to seize every opportunity throughout a young person's life to be able to introduce them to what does it mean to be fully human and to embrace how God has designed us is such a critical piece of that. Now, you brought up marriage enrichment and particularly the Building a Eucharistic Marriage video series. Could you share a little bit about that for our listeners and maybe what's the thesis of it? How does it go about and what could we learn from this experience?
Sure. So this came out of a longer program that was 12 sessions long.
Okay.
And then God revealed something through that, and it's really solidified in this whole program called Building a Eucharistic Marriage, where we take couples through a therapeutic model for change, 7 steps and 7 sessions where we go through this to help them build and strengthen their marriage with each other. But we parallel that with our relationship with Christ in and through the Mass. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of this. So we're working with couples on strengthening both of these at the same time. Because we're also seeing this great decline in people in the Catholic Church. So yeah, this was a great kind of revelation that I got from God as I was writing this program of that connection.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, yeah, and I think it's one of those things where, I'm married, been married for 7 years, and you're married and been married for a lot longer than 7 years. There's a lot of people that are listening that are married, right? So it's no secret that in marriage, sometimes there's friction, sometimes there's disagreement, and sometimes, frankly, it's just hard. You put two different people to live in a home together and to raise a family with, sometimes different families of origins and different experiences. What are some of the most common pitfalls that you see within kind of marriage, and how do you help couples kind of walk through those things together?
Sure. So the first thing, well, most people, when they come into therapy, the biggest issue that they bring up is communication. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing that everybody says, we're struggling with communication. But in the class and when I work with couples, the first place I start is making time for each other, because there's no substitute for time in building, rebuilding, or maintaining any marriage. And that's what we have this lack of in our world today, is people are so busy, there's so much going on that they're not stopping to take the time to really connect. And that's the same thing with our relationship with God, is that we only give God a little bit each week instead of really bringing that, as a part of our whole life. So that's the first one. Second is being intentional. I think a lot of people, we go on autopilot because there's so much to do. I have 7 kids. And so, when kids have those demands, it just takes us to where we divide and conquer as a couple, but we've got to be intentional in working with each other. But of course, communication is a huge one. I think there's a lot of times when people they're talking at each other and they're not talking with each other. And so their perceptions really start to distort. And then it's an argument of perceptions versus really understanding what the other person needs. So, yeah. And the other thing I forgot to say, as far as the program, we teach it live in our diocese, but we were blessed back in 2021 to put together this video series that we now have online for couples to be able to watch in their own home, or parishes can buy and utilize a license to work with couples in groups at their church. Oh, amazing. Yeah. And I think we're definitely, we'll get that information out to our listeners too. And I think just even hearing you speak about the importance of, when couples do go through those things, specifically to your point of, okay, a lot of those issues tend to stem from communication. I mean, I think also just to kind of public service announcement, to be able to not be afraid of being able to go into those hard things with your spouse, particularly in the context of whether it's seeing a therapist or seeing a counselor or being able to go to marriage counseling. Because, I mean, the thing the enemy wants to do, right, is to destroy the family. He wants to destroy the culture. And what's the cornerstone of society and of culture? It's the family. And so if he can pit a husband and a wife against each other and create resentment and create despair, like that's where families don't flourish, right? And I think, having been a recipient of marriage counseling before, my wife and I have gone, and I think it's a very important thing to do. You begin to invite someone else in to be able to help give you those skills and those tools, because really a lot of those things you're talking about, Greg, are tools, right? They're things you have to learn, because a lot of us didn't really learn how to communicate effectively within the context of marriage. So just to double down on what you're sharing, like so pivotally important to be able to kind of take a step back and to really work on our marriage together. Now, I think with particularly the series that we're talking about, of building a Eucharistic marriage, could you kind of speak to the connection that's being drawn between what we see in the Mass and the Eucharistic experience to what you're connecting husbands and wives to, and how to mirror that self-gift of love, or what's happening in the midst of the building a Eucharistic marriage video series? If you could give us a little teaser. Sure. Yeah. And this all started back when I was working with a couple that it came into my office and they were just going back and forth, placing blame on each other. And I stopped them in the middle of it and I asked them one question that to really reframe things. And I said, if I gave you the opportunity to starve each other to death, would you do it? Mm-hmm. And they looked at me as if to say, what are we paying you for here? But it was one of those, answer the question. And so they said, no, we wouldn't do that. That's cruel. And I said, but that's actually what's happening here. You're here to be each other's helpmate. And in this, when life gets busy, we forget how to feed one another and how to be Eucharistic. So in the course, we go through 7 key areas. The first is making time, time for each other, time for God. Second one is understanding God's design for marriage and understanding the marriage feast of the Lamb. Third, we go through this willingness to look inside of ourselves. We connect that with confession and the penitential rite, where we look inside at our own
Greg,
faults.
Sorry to cut you off. We do have to wrap up here in a second. I want to be respectful of your
it's okay.
Just in a quick sentence, where can people learn more or access the video series?
Sure. It's at eucharisticmarriage.org.
Okay, eucharisticmarriage.org. Friends, if you want to learn more, go there. Thank you so much, Greg. We appreciate you having you on the show.
Listen to the Catholic Morning Show weekdays at 7 a.m. Central on the Iowa Catholic Radio Network, iowacatholicradio.com, or the Iowa Catholic Radio app.